The deeper and deeper I go, I find what it is I should know. 'Cause it's just a matter of time that you'll reawaken your mind. Oh, come with me, come to know and find out what is true. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds. Come to know and find out what is truth, yes. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds.
Happy Holy Day, Moors, and welcome to House of Reawakening Minds. House of Reawakening Minds exists to provide for the exploration and practice of spirituality in an enlightened community dedicated to honoring the myriad of sacred pathways to the universal creator. We are a holistic center for spiritual grounding, free thought, self discovery, and Moorish science, an awakening experience for all ages. Tonight, I am pleased to present part two of my interview with previous guest, Yacouba J. Rome L., who presented and will present part two of What Happened to Us Politically and Civilly and the Simple Corrective Solutions. Tonight's guest is a strong advocate for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. He is a Moorish science researcher, multi platform law adept, an entrepreneur, and father. But before he gets started, please be sure to like, share, and if you have not already done so, please subscribe to our channel. Now, I'd like to welcome back to House of Reawakening Minds, this time to House of Reawakening Minds. He was on official, Dr. G is official. Actually, I'll get it right. Office Hours with Dr. G last month. I'd like to welcome back Brother Yacouba J. Rome L. How are you?
Good, Dr. G. How are you?
I'm good. I was getting all tongue-tied and tongue-twisted and all that stuff, but I'm glad that you are here tonight, coming back with part two of what happened to us, was it, politically and civilly, and the simple solutions. We always are in need and looking for solutions to the problems that we are facing. So, again, I'm glad to have you back. You were on Office Hours with Dr. G. I said last month, but I think, was it March? Maybe, perhaps it was March.
I think it was March.
Maybe March. It was March. Y'all forgive me. I get the time. Time flies. Time is just like, you don't know whether you go to sleep and they just push the button up or something and make time go faster. Because
That's right.
I declare, I feel like I'm losing some time. So, but in any event, you were on the show back a few months ago. The response was very good. Since that time, tell us. I remember posing a question to the audience about whether or not they would be interested in attending a free civics class, and you vowed to get one started within a week or so, and I think you kept your word with regard to that. Please tell us what you've been doing since you were here last, and then we can get into what your the continuation of what you want to present.
Okay, so I did get the civics class launched. The attendance has been great. We champion group participation. We look at the who, what, where, why, and how aspect of civics, the relationship between people and persons, because that term has been used loosely within society and is added to the confusion, which, in my opinion, confusion is a weapon that could be used to um, separate a people or to divide and conquer. So, with that being said, um, we definitely been looking at definitions and terms and what the difference of those definitions and terms are generally versus legally, uh, because of legalese. And because of that being a language that looks like and spells like English, generally speaking, but is that of a special characteristic and that the definitions are not the same as the general definitions. Those definitions are mostly used to write wills, contracts, and laws. If you consider statutes, acts, and codes laws, they're written in legalese. So those things and how they impact us in our everyday life is what we have been focusing on, as well as the creation of documents such as affidavits, which you know how I feel about affidavits, and the emphasis on creating your own affidavits and not relying on others' documents, which typically, if you can't determine what the principle is that you're attempting to communicate, you shouldn't be doing it anyway. You should always tell your truth because your walk on this plane of life is going to be unique and different to mostly everyone else's. So, with that being said, everything that we do, if it involves communicating with a person, is going to be done either expressly or verbally, whether it's to a authorized representative or someone acting as a particular function within that artificial construct, or you need to communicate using a writ or something written expressed on paper. So you need to know what your relationship is to those constructs, because if you think you're a person, then you won't know to separate yourself to properly be presented as a authorized representative of such of a so-called name, meaning a person. And when I say person, I'm going to use person in this interview as being um, non-flesh and blood. When I say people, you know I'm referring to flesh and blood. And this,
Let me stop you and ask you. May I ask you a question? So
sure.
just for clarity, so when one is speaking of oneself, should they say, um, well, I know they can't say, or they're speaking. We're speaking of each other. You can't. Folks get twisted since you're in the definitions. What should we call each other? Should we call ourselves? You said people. We are a people. But if I said commonly, people might say, "I'm a person." Well, we're not supposed to say that. What should one say when speaking of oneself correctly?
Well, what one should say is what one truly believes. Now, when people typically mention I'm a person, they don't know any better. So they don't know that they're speaking, especially if it's in a venue or forum that is presuming to have control over you by operation of law. They don't know that they're speaking in a legalese term because of the venue or forum. So they're only speaking of what they were taught in school or otherwise, which is completely unfair. So I would say that the term one should use is the one that one believes in, but when asked, what do you mean by that term? And unfortunately, we live in a society where legalese and legal infractions and crossovers between our private life and a so-called public interaction has been blurred. So now you must begin to administer yourself and your estate, in my opinion, at all times when not communicating with someone that is considered a friend or family member, anyone outside of those two categories, then you are more than likely coming in contact with someone that you're contracting with. And this is one of the reasons I believe Taj Street Bay mentions contracting so much, because people don't realize when they're contracting because they don't know civics. And so if they don't realize when they're contracting, they can't possibly begin to know how to contract. And so if it's not a friend or family member where you are speaking generally, where it is often understood that one word has one meaning, then when you are interacting with someone that you're contracting with, now you're stepping off into the the land of the dead, or should I say artificial. And that particular uh, venue or jurisdiction, those same words have different meanings. So now you must learn civics, which is not only the relationship between people and persons, but also how do you interact? How do you navigate between the land of the living and the land of the dead? Which the land of the dead, contractually speaking, is what they call admiralty. Now, they won't tell you it's admiralty, but that's what it is, the land of contracts. The land where, and let me take land out. I misspoke. Let me just say this. In the construct, artificial construct, or jurisdiction where presumption and assumption rule, where operation of law rules, and these presumptions and assumptions and operation of law are either laws or statutes, acts, and codes that did not write themselves. So these are words and or names that have owners. So they are doing business by utilizing those words or those names to control people, because the people don't know that if they're being referred to as a name, then that name is also a person. So in essence, what you have is one person or artificial construct, and I'll use the example of a business, say a statutory business, because there's a difference between a statutory and a private. So a statutory business, which is one that is governed by statute, acts, and codes. Okay. Also what they call public law or public policy. So when you have a business, and I'm just going to say House of Reawakening Minds, let's just say that that is a business of a sort. Now, when you see that name, House of Reawakening Minds, you don't know the organizational structure of that name, but you do know that it's not flesh and blood. So too often have we allowed ourselves to loosely refer to artificial entities in regards to who's and what's. For example, when they say, man, I got to go renew my plate. Man, who said you got to do that? Man, the state, man. Plates expire. Or when it comes to for example, a vaccine of some sorts, right? And the so-called job or your contractor and your contractee, we say loosely without thinking about what we are actually saying that, man, they said I gotta bring in either an exemption or I gotta get this shot. Well, you use they. So if you ask, well, who? Man, my job. Well, your job is not a who. Your job is a what? I've talked to many people concerning this so-called affidavit of religious exemption and other derivatives that these so-called jobs are enforcing. And I asked the same question. And I've had this conversation with several temples over the last month about the same thing, just reaching out to them, people that I've associated with in the past, about this religious thing. And they all claim to be some sort of government, whether it's national or have their own thing going on, whether it's their own domicile or own. Some of them have civic organizations and they are independent, or it's considered to be an unincorporated business entity of some sort, non-statutory, and some are statutory, which means that they have asked for permission to exist. I'll just put it in general terms. So anytime you are applying for something, you're asking for permission. Anytime you do that, whether you do an application for driver's license, whether you do an application for registration, whether you do an application for a job, you're asking for permission to do something. So evidence of that is you also can be denied. You can be denied the application for driver's license. You can be denied, or should I say, you could be denied the benefit or privilege of having a driver's license. You can be denied the job. They can turn you down. You can You could be denied renewal of your license plates based on your so-called driver's license or lack of insurance or who knows. But the discretion is up to what agency you're applying to. So the confusion comes in with the designation from people to that particular entity as being a who. So back to the example about the affidavit, religious affidavit for the exemption from the vaccine. This is something that frustrates me, that is coming from the people who are deemed to be competent. They immediately jump to providing something for them. Now, I am aware of the hostility that one can meet in the workplace, but I'm also aware of the lack of civics being taught. And this is one of the primary reasons I believe Noble Drew Ali stressed civics. Not joining a temple. He didn't stress that. That was an option. But what he did stress was that no matter what you do, declare and proclaim your nationality. He did stress that. And I believe I may know one of the reasons why. Because in my own walk, thus far, at this point, I have much experience with trial and error, with believing in not only people, but believing also in organizational structures that are inherently ran by people. And most of the time, with the church atmosphere, because that's what I grew up in as far as my religional affiliation was the church. In the church, civics isn't really taught at all. Okay. Civics isn't really taught in the temples either. What you think is civics is some kind of hybrid mixture between the two. You can't teach civics effectively while asking people to perform at the same time. Because if your performance involves contracting, then my opinion is you're taking advantage of the people. You're no different from the corporation. You're no different. And I'll get to why here in a second. So when it comes to that particular religious affidavit, and the few people that I have talked to, I say few, but it's been more than 10. So, and I have given my opinion about structuring the affidavit and asking who is saying you must take a vaccination. Who, not what, not ABC Corp, not DEF Logistics, not any other corporation, but who within the corporation is claiming that you have to put something in your body. And when I asked that question, even to temple leaders, I guess they never thought about that. I mean, people jump right to contracting. What I mean by contracting is this. They jump right to answering their demands in some sort of way, or either providing some sort of documentation. Now, hey, if that's all you know, then do what you do. But if you work for, hypothetically speaking, if you work for the Northgate Civic Organization, and you're required to take a vaccination, well, let's think about this now. So the Northgate Civics Organization, hypothetically speaking, is requiring you to have a vaccination.
Let's just call that the V instead of that, please.
Okay. Yeah. The V.
Or the J.
Okay. How about this? The Northgate Civics Organization is requiring you to get that thing.
That's good.
Okay, there you go. That thing. Or you can't work here. So now you get the Russian to figure out, well, how can I get around it? And we say, okay, you need a religious affidavit, a religious exemption. So you see how now you're contracting? You see the nexus you just created?
Okay.
You just adhered to their rule. So you're contracting now. So now later on down the road, hypothetically speaking, if the North Gate say, okay, you got that first thing, but now you got to get that second thing. Well, now you've contracted. Now they can attempt to compel you to perform when just for a slight moment in time you forgot that you were a man or a woman or a people, and that the Northgate Civics organization is artificial. It only exists in name. It's a person. So how in the hell is it saying anything to you? Let me give you another example of what I'm talking about, because this is going to be a common variable. Okay. I'm going to write here a message on a piece of paper. Okay. 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 Here's a message. Now, this is put out by the Northgate Civics organization, abbreviated, and it says, "Go get that thing."
Yeah. Okay. I see
Okay.
it.
You see that? Okay.
Yeah.
This is a piece of paper with some words on it. There's no valid contract unless you think there is. Who is authorizing this, or who is accepting full commercial liability for even issuing this false contract? And I say who, because there's people behind the Northgate Civics organization. They're not taking commercial responsibility because they're not signing this so-called mandate or this contract. And you're not even asking who is saying it. Because when you do, they're going to tell you, well, the state is saying we have to do this. Okay, well, you're not contracting with the state, you're contracting with that particular business. So there's no reason to go to the state as far as at this junction. You just need to find out who within this business, who within the Northgate Civics organization is saying, I need to go and get this put into my body. Because that means that they must be in possession of a contract that I don't know about, and I want to see it. So why not you just put together an affidavit asking who, doing business as the Northgate Civics organization, is compelling me to perform under a false presumption. And then you, I'm going to shorten this up, you sign it under the penalty of perjury, and you command that they respond to you under the penalty of perjury. That is in the form of an affidavit. And if they don't respond to you in the form of affidavit, then they agree that this notice is a mistake and does not apply to you and will not bother you or not present you with this type of contract offer anymore.
So you're saying that in cases, just let me paraphrase what I think you're saying, when presented with that possibility of having of being required to do that, one should respond with a writ asking for specifically who in the form of a living being, I guess it would be, is saying that this is required or has to be done, and that then would you then go back with, if that is get presented, would you then give them a contract of responsibility for any, I mean, even if you didn't want it anyway, but one could go back with a writ that requires them to be a responsible party in the event of this, and this.
Yes, right concept, but not the same approach. Basically, if someone comes forth, you know you don't have a contract with anyone. You know that you don't have a contract with anyone saying that you're going to put anything in your body. What they're doing is contracting with the name, is what they're doing. They're not contracting with you. But if someone does come forth with an affidavit saying that you have to take it, then they must produce the contract. And whoever comes forth, they have to be the one you're contracting with. They have to have firsthand knowledge of everything that's within the affidavit. And basically, this is an approach that you can use, which is the same approach everyone uses, every man or woman that's doing business as a particular name within an artificial construct, regardless of its organizational structure. It goes back to the affidavits. This is how the previous president of the corporation, Donald Trump, is now getting his cases heard. This is how all evidence is presented, is by way of a sworn or attested testimony of someone. Your word is your bond. So all I'm saying is that before people began to respond initially out of emotion to these requests for the V, first ask who, and do so with an affidavit, because they can't ignore you. You see, if they don't respond, you get the answer you want. Just put it in your affidavit. For example, I'll give you an example. You must respond within 10 days, or you must respond within 30 days. And if no response is received by designate a third party that's a disinterested third party, so that there will be no confusion as to the chain of possession of the responses or lack thereof. If no response is received, then that is your tacit agreement and acquiescence to the fact that no contract exists and this does not apply to me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the route you would take. After all, who is really going to respond?
Yeah, the thing that gets me with regard to that is that if someone can get the exemption, someone who has some a religious or clergy affiliation, and say that these are the reasons they want scriptures and different, back in supporting whatever somebody is saying is their reasons for objection. If that is that simple and can negate it for one being, it should negate it for all. You see what I'm saying? If by simply saying that, I don't believe in this for these particular reasons, throwing in some scriptures and signing it with a title can maybe possibly get someone off the hook, if you will, and I've done it, for if that's the case. Why is it so necessary for anyone to get it? You see what I mean? Why couldn't one write an affidavit of what stating one's own objection and let it suffice? Because not everybody's going to do that. We know that anyway. You got the sheep that are, blindly led to the slaughter. They're not going to question that. They're going to put a little sticker on, I'm fully V'd on there, like that's a badge of honor. And actually, to me, it's the sign of the, what do they call it? The scarlet letter, like back off.
Right. I agree. I mean, if you wouldn't let someone that a complete stranger on the street walk up to you with a hypodermic needle and stick you in the arm, why would you let anybody else you don't know do it? You don't know what's in it. It's plenty of evidence out here in regards to the cook-up being different.
Right.
It's plenty of it. From one particular nationality to another nationality, the recipe is different. There's plenty of evidence out here.
And then, we have so much of the mixing, if you will, and folk don't know their whole parentage and all that. So if they got enough of us, even though it may be hidden, but it's in there, then you're going to see it in the results of having taken that. Somebody was saying something to me about someone who was, a hybrid who took everything when it came out, everything, and now no side of her face went numb, and this is going wrong, and that never. I'm assuming up until that point had never had any of these physical problems, but everything's kind of going awry with them, and so, but even still, they have not associated it with what they took.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are in denial and are highly upset and pissed off. And I think honestly, some people get to turning towards the people who haven't taken it because they can remember when they were doing just fine before they took it until now. I mean, you only have, as far as I know, on this plane, one body. Why would you allow any man or woman, let alone an artificial entity, convince you to take something? I really don't think people read as much as they think they read. If you all was to look at those requests or those presentments given to you from your so-called job, you would see no signature on those. Nobody is taking full commercial responsibility or liability for what's going to happen to you. But more so than that, why would you even consider it? I get the threatening of your job, I get that. But why would you even consider compromising your only one body? I mean, you only get two eyes, two arms, two legs, 2 feet. You don't know what's going to happen to you. Why would you even consider it? Why is it even a consideration? Fear. Oh, fear. Oh, okay. The boogeyman gonna come get you. Maybe you expected to live to be 1,000 years old. Maybe you did. But for something that's inevitable, I think, not promised, because there have been patriarchs that have not seen what we will call death. So, not promised. But for the sake of general conversation, we all know that there's going to be a day that most of us will transition to the next life. Why would you, out of fear, listen to the same government, especially if you're Asiatic, or especially if you're an ancient carbonated people? And I did not say melanin. Melanin is a fiction. If you are
Whoa.
ancient
Wait,
carbonated,
wait, stop. Take time out. We didn't listen. We didn't have a lot of folks built their career on telling us about our melanated makeup. Now you're saying that you're saying that we're not melanin. Well, first of all, I do know that we're not the only ones with melanin or whatever they call that. But you're saying it's a fiction, meaning it doesn't exist, or its importance has been over exaggerated, or a combination of the both. What are you saying, please?
what I understand is everyone has a right to define whatever they want. But let's go to the periodic table of elements. Find melanin.
Okay. I don't
And,
think
for,
it's
and yeah, exactly. And for those of you who have not done that, then you should stop saying you possess melanin. You only said it because somebody else said it. If you don't find it on the periodic table, it doesn't exist on this plane of life, period. Melanin is a expression. Melanin is a fiction because those that don't possess what you call melanin want it and want to control it. Usually when you start seeing names being thrown around, it's because of a claim, a property claim. See, you can't claim carbon. Carbon is from nature.
mm,
You can't claim carbon, but you can claim melanin.
oh,
If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look up the scientific, well, like I just said, the periodic table. Just go to the periodic table. If you can't find it, it's because it doesn't exist. It exists in name only. Now, it may have a definition as applicable within this jurisdiction or within this bubble, within this matrix. We're in a bubble, is what we are. I'll give you an example of what happens when you step outside of the bubble. In part one, I mentioned that our states are also synonymous with countries because each one has their own constitution. You mentioned that you received a package that came from an international sender to you, and it listed Oregon, I believe, was it Oregon, as a country.
as a country.
as a country. A lot of people did not know that the so-called United States of America is very different from the United States, and that each particular state is a country that has its own constitution. And then you have the 1871 Corporation Constitution of the United States versus the organic 1787 Constitution, the Constitution for the United States. So when you mention Constitution, it would behoove you to indicate which one you're talking about, and that's for all of you who like to take legal stances and whatnot. Don't mention the Constitution without being specific, because there's more than one. But back to melanin versus carbon. Your color is an expression of your carbon concentration. That's what it is. Carbon doesn't mutate into melanin. It doesn't do that. The other day that I saw where they were taking so-called melanin and they were creating computer chips with it. And they call it bioenergy. Bioenergy. And this is typically what happens when people get to naming things. Because then now you're talking about property. Names are property. Names are fictions in relation to people, flesh and blood. Every name is. Doesn't matter what your name is. Doesn't matter what you call something. Name one name that does not have some sort of property right or interest attached to it. One name of anything. Can you name one? Doesn't matter what it is. The cell phone.
What?
Samsung. It's a name. Somebody's got some sort of claim or interest in it or property right to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And you use that name without getting permission, and that name is not directly connected to you, either organically in reference to the common law or statutorily in relation to public law, then you're going to have a problem.
I know, for instance, I example of that would be everybody, when the copier machines came out and Xerox was on, the one in the forefront of all that, and Xerox. People used to say, "Go make me a Xerox," but they might have been going on a Canon. So it was they made Xerox synonymous with making a copy when Xerox wasn't it was one copyright, one patent of many, so then we had to just say make a copy. But we used to say, go get a Xerox. Go get a Xerox copy. But you would have gone to a Ricoh or a Canon machine.
That's right.
To make a Xerox. Well, you weren't.
Right. You weren't.
Yeah.
And think about this. If you look at your DBA, okay? Nobody can use your DBA. Look at House of Reawakening Minds.
That's my DBA.
That's your DBA. If you use that without your permission, then you guys, whoever it is, going to have a conversation with you. There's going to have to be a meeting of the minds because you didn't get permission. They didn't get a release from you. You can't use any corporation's name without getting a release from them because it's property of someone. In behind this long chain of names, whether they're LLCs, S corps, trusts, whatever you want to name it, partnerships, etc., individuals even, there's going to be people. There's going to be people benefiting from it. Somewhere you have to do your due diligence to track the history down and find out. But behind your company, whoever you work for, whatever the company is, it doesn't matter, from General Motors to Delta Airlines, from Ford to NASA, it doesn't matter. NASA is only a name. It's a fiction. Some people somewhere vicariously through other artificial constructs own or control the interest in that name. It's not flesh and blood. I said that to say, learn civics. Noble Drew Ali, I don't think, secondly, to declare and proclaim your nationality, but in order to do that, you need to know how you relate to government constructs. Also, fictions, also names. I don't think that he could have given a more wiser instruction, because you live in a time where the current power, speaking of the Roman Empire specifically, operate by names. They operate by canon law. Though that power and that of England are owners or have interest in what you call the United States and the United States of America. So you see evidence of the name game being played in what you would refer to as the straw, or your DBA, or the Sesquick K Trust. So the name game you must learn. This is at the very heart of civics, because to even mention government, that's a name. To even mention society, that's a name. To even mention nationality, that's a name. To even mention your born name is a name. To mention your free and national so-called name is still a name. They're not you. None of those are you. There's only one you, flesh and blood. This is why Noble Drew Ali said, keep old business old and do new business in your free and national name. What makes the name free and national? Because we're talking about names here. And we know that all names are going to be associated with some sort of interest or claim in relation to it. It's almost impractical to think that any name that you can think of, talking to the public, is not going to have some sort of claim on it. Every name does, because it's part of the creation or derivative of people, whether it is their personal property, whether it is their private property, whether it is intellectual property, the manifestation of it. They're going to protect their property. So there's going to be rules that you have to abide by in order to use a name. And there should be rules that others have to abide by to use your name, because that should be your property. So since we're talking about property, now we can talk about title. And if we're talking about titles, meaning title to property, let's just think about it. Okay, your car, year, make, and model. Okay, you got a title, certificate of title. Well, if you don't know property rights, this is also working in conjunction with trust law, then you won't know that in their jurisdiction, and if you follow the trust law, which if we go, let me give you an example of what I mean. Okay, let's go here. All right, I'm going to share a document that we just went over in the civics class. Okay, and there's share screen. Okay, I'm going to use screen sharing is easy with 2 monitors. Screen sharing is best worked on a computer. Okay, share screen. Okay, select window screen. Entire screen. Okay. I don't need to mute notifications while sharing, do I?
No.
Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so you can see my screen, right?
Right.
Okay. You can see this document here?
Craze files.
Yeah, there you go. What this document is talking about is, you see Unum Sanctum, the first trust of the world?
Yes.
Okay. This is what Taj Tariq Bey is talking about. Now, this article may not be exact as far as all the details, but it is exact in the timeline and many of the claims. What I want you all to do is search this on the computer, Unum Sanctum, the first trust of the world. So we're talking about names and claims, okay? So here, when they tell you it's the first trust of the world, I'm just going to read to you the first 2 paragraphs so we can know what game we're playing now, okay? Because we're going to step outside of the land of the living and enter the land of the dead. In other words, the name game. Unum Sanctum is one of the most frightening documents of history and the most quoted as the primary document of the popes claiming their global power. It is an express trust deed. You see that, Dr. G?
Mm-hmm.
So we're dealing in trust law now. Okay? The last line reads, furthermore, we declare, we proclaim, we define that it is absolutely necessary for salvation that every human creature be subject to the Roman pontiff. It is not only the first trust deed in history, but also the largest trust ever conceived, as it claims the whole planet and everything on it conveyed in trust. Then it goes on and gives you the year. Triple crown of Baal, aka Papal Tiara, and Trigonum. Now, Tashriq Bey talks about the papal bulls and unum sanctum all the time. So maybe this will add a little bit of clarity for you all who won't read on your own, but want to have somebody show you everything. Write these dates down. 1302, Pope Boniface. Okay? 1455, Pope Nicholas V. The second crown of the Commonwealth. 1481, Attorney Regis, meaning the eternal crown. Okay? Now I'm going to give you an example of what they claim here, okay? Let's go here. The crown was finally lost by England in 1975 when it was returned to Spain and King Carlos I, where it remains to this day. This second crown is represented by the second Sesway KV Trust. Once again, we're talking trust people. Created when a child is born and by the sale of the birth certificate as a bond to the private central bank of the nation, depriving us ownership of our flesh and condemning us to perpetual servitude as a Roman person or slave. Now, this is all public notice that they've given you all. All right. Third crown, 1537. Okay. You all do the research. So when you hear people like Tashriq Bey talking about, let me go back to that. Okay. Talking about things like the, excuse me, the unum sanctum, now you know why. Because it's a claim. This is a claim. This is what you're up against, the name game. They claim you and everything that you own, all your real property, all your personal property, all of your ecclesiastical property. They claim your soul through baptism. This is what you're up against.
Wow.
So this is the name game. And you're dealing in trust law. And they gave you a public notice. You've been hearing about it. Tashriq, they've been talking about it for over 40 years. Maybe even longer. I don't know. He might have been talking about it out the womb because that's his job. I don't know. But he's telling you the truth. The problem with most people is not the fact that the truth has been told to you, is that it doesn't resonate with you because you don't take the time out to slow your life down and actually look at and research some of the things that you're being told or that's being shared with you. Because man knows nothing by being told. You have to look it up for yourself. They tell you in those papal bulls that those are trusts. Everything that you have has been put in trust. They even tell you how to get out of it. But most importantly, it's a claim. And that claim, part of it is on the name. Is there any questions? I know you probably got a couple there.
The first question that I started to go back to was this one. Can you ask about temples having jurisdiction over their members? Is this possible?
Jurisdiction over the members. What do you mean by jurisdiction? Okay, let me just put that in. Let me answer that in several parts. In my opinion, anytime you're contracting, you need to know how you're contracting. Okay, as Taj would say, don't contract. What I believe he means by that is if you don't know how to contract, you shouldn't be doing it. What I mean by that now, in my opinion, is if you don't know civics, and this is one of the issues I have with a lot of temples, and I have my share of frustration with them. You join a temple, the first fault there is joining. I've joined many, so I can speak on this, okay? And what I mean by join, I look at it like dating or courting, so to speak. Because remember, you all don't know any of these people in these temples. Okay, they're all strangers to you. Just because people come under the guise of Asiatics or Moors or Christians or Catholics, don't automatically give them a pass as far as your eye can see them, because they haven't earned your trust. You don't know what they're about. It's kind of like when you meet someone new that you might be interested in. When you first see them, they might be appealing to you, so that'll get their foot in the door, because that's what your eyes see, right? And they get to talking to you, they get to spitting game to you. You might like what they say, but don't forget that you still don't know who they are.
It's true.
You don't know. So time hasn't set in yet. You got to give it time. You have to give these temple attendees time, these temple leaders time. We won't blame the temple because the temple is an artificial construct. The temple exists in name only. So we're talking about the people behind the temple, the people that run the temple, the people that run the church, the people that run the mosque, the people that run the congregation. You don't know these people; they're all complete strangers to you. And with the way things are going these days, you really have to be careful, especially if you are a woman, because you're a target. Okay, I'm not going to say that men are a target either, but yeah, you're a target. So, as far as jurisdiction over you, if you're contracting, then you must be aware of what you're contracting. Now, what I don't like, that I find to be a common variable in these temples, is that when people first get attracted to a temple, instead of having a civics class isolated, as Noble Drew Ali did, and don't think for 1 minute, if you claim to know his history or his legacy, that the temple came before civics, because it didn't. He wanted you to know what you was getting into before you got into it. He didn't try to free you and put you in a contract at the same time, which is what a lot of these organizations do. So when you come to a temple, a mosque, or a church, or whatever, the first thing they want you to do is sign something. They want you to sign something. So right off the bat, your contract. You don't know what you're signing. You have no idea what the words mean. So in the form of jurisdiction in that way, what are you signing up for? Do you even know? This is what I mean by civics, not knowing. I believe, in my opinion, every temple, mosque, or any type of religious organization or any type of business, period, should have a class on civics, unless you're looking to take advantage of someone, because that's exactly what's going to happen. If you are signing documents, joining any of these organizations, and you don't know what those documents mean or what they entail, especially if they have language such as citizenship or residence or domicile or et cetera, then can you really fault the temple leaders, or do you have to look at yourself? Because people will try to hustle you all day long. And I'm not saying that they're trying to hustle people. I'm just saying that that method or ritual, I don't agree with. And I don't believe that that's the way the prophet Noble Drew Ali intended it to be either. He didn't care if you joined the temple. He just told you no matter what, declare and proclaim. They've even taken that and went completely statutory with that process. Remember, you're playing the name game. So what do you own? And I'm talking to each and every individual man and woman. What do you own? Do you even own your own name? Now, you know, when you came out of your mother named you, or should I say, she gave you an appellation or a title of nobility, however you want to say it. Okay, excuse me. But then that was taken, and then from that, a name was created, meaning the person, and it was done so by an act of the county and or state. So you don't even have control over that. So when it comes to your free and national appellation, the Noble Drew Ali tried to steer you in the right direction. Do you even have control over that? For example, very few people know how to declare or proclaim to the so-called governments, okay, that so-called control you or govern you without going the statutory route. And what do I mean by the statutory route? The statutory route is to go to the local courthouse and put in for a name change. And in that process, you'll go through the Social Security card update. And then you'll go through the birth certificate record update. Now, my first thought that comes to mind is each and every step of this process, you're asking for permission to do something. Would you not agree, Dr. G?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So for those that think that you're not asking for permission to do it, the question now becomes, can you or can't you be denied at each and every step of that particular process? Let's start with the first one. The name change. Can you be denied a name change?
You can.
You can. Okay. So now you're asking to be whatever nationality you're claiming. You're asking. Whether you like it or not, you're asking. Because that's a prerequisite in a lot of temples. You're asking. That's a prerequisite in some mosques. You're asking, and you can be denied. Second one is the Social Security card. Now, do you or don't you have to have a Social Security card?
I mean, there are a few that don't, but you're allegedly you're supposed to, which we now know that is a way of tagging you for bonding.
That's right. That is absolutely correct.
I'm pulling. I just pulled up. I'm not going to show her number, but I'm pretty sure you can't see, especially with the green. But I just pulled up. You can't see it, but I just pulled up on a website. A lot of folks do know about it. A lot of folks don't. Called gmeiutility.org, and I put my mother's. There at the very top, there's a bar that said you can put in something and search. You put in your social security number assigned to you with the dashes, and hit the search bar, hit the little mic, little thing, and it comes up. And my mother transitioned in February of 2002. To this day, there are now 12,106 records, most of them active, where they're trading on that Social Security number.
Yeah, they actually do that, and that is a derivative instrument of that first name or first trust that we saw in the Unum Sanctum. That is a derivative of that. So yes,
and it's all over the world, including here, but mostly,
yeah, it goes all over the world. But there you go. Now the big question about that particular process becomes this: whether or not you are required to have one by law. Now the next question is, what is law? Because what many people presume and assume is law is not law.
Air and water.
Yeah, that is one way to perceive it to be. Now remember, we're in a bubble. We're in a bubble. So if you are not aware of what de jure law is, or what trust law is in relation to the names, then you can't determine the jurisdiction or the venue. So you need to be aware. So what a lot of people perceive to be law is not de jure law. So if you don't know how to operate within that trust format, that was created by Unum Sanctum. And when they published it, they proclaimed it. You notice in the language, he said proclaim. He proclaimed. So he put it out to the world. So you can't say that he hid it. He put it out there. Now, whether or not you knew to look for it is of another question. But whether you knew to look or not to look for it doesn't change the fact that it was published. So in regards to the Social Security card, and then the icing on the cake is changing the birth certificate. Now, when all of this was done, it was done fraudulently, without your mother's knowledge. You were an infant, but they still signed your signature on the document. How did they do it? The footprint. And while we're on the footprint, let me address something that I had someone in the mosque. We had a nice little conversation say to me that the whole, and I don't know why this opinion goes around so much, that the whole ID with the fingerprint is fraudulent. Okay. Fraudulent. Let's ask ourselves a question. Who? Here I go again, Dr. G, with who? Who? Who else can properly identify yourself other than you? Okay. Who or whose signature did they take on the birth record in the form of a footprint?
Mine.
Okay. And the sister that was in that mosque, I hope you're watching, I hope you're listening. This is the point I was attempting to get across to you before you became upset, and I had to just abandon the whole conversation. There are still countries today, and I'm still within the bubble, states that whenever you go to update or change any of their documents, they still require your fingerprint. Still to this day. So, all of those commercial instruments, none of them depict your nationality. Not even the so beloved passport. It says the word nationality, but it also says USA. That's not a nationality. It's not.
No. Fiction.
It's a fiction. The question now becomes, why is it a fiction? And the better question, it becomes, for all of you people in these temples and these mosques and in these religious organizations and these private organizations that are telling people to do this process, I believe they're doing it out of fear, or either they're agents, in my opinion, because you can't claim to be competent and go down the same path you did when you were ignorant. If you don't know civics, you don't know the relationship between people and persons, you don't know how to contract, then you shouldn't be contracting. You can't have a free and national name if you give someone else title to it. What is the title to your so-called born name? It's the birth certificate. That's the title to it. They have legal title in everything that you have. Just like they share legal title in your possessions. You have a car, you have it registered with the county registrar or the state registrar or the DMV. You can enjoy the property, that gives you equitable title, but they have legal title. You don't think so? Let your tags expire and see don't they enforce it. That name, they have legal title. Why would Noble Drew Ali tell you to do business or even draw a contrast between a name and a free and national name? Let's just take a look at this. You got a name, and then Noble Drew Ali said free and national name. Free. Free of what is the question? Free of what? If anybody listening to me says that this doesn't matter, I'm asking you, free of what? What was he talking about? He drew a direct contrast and contradistinction to whatever you was using now to this. The L, the they, the days, the ours, the ourlies. Okay? Opposites. So how is one to maintain a free and national name when you are in fact doing everything they did to you in the beginning to take title over the name? There's nothing new about the name now. There's nothing free about the name now. You have done the worst thing that you could possibly do. You have joined everything with your free and national name because you don't know civics and you let somebody else talk you into doing it. Or either the temple, mosque, or religious organization or whatever, they start telling you, teaching you civics, but then having you sign contracts simultaneously. So somebody in the chat, tell me, how was the name free and national if you merged everything that had liability attached to it? Now, let me share this with y'all. There's an entity called an unincorporated business, okay, entity, unincorporated, which means that you give notice, declare, you declare, okay, you declare. So I believe that the brother you was interviewing the other day was talking about the town hall meetings. I didn't get the whole gist of the conversation because I haven't finished it yet. But when he was talking about the town hall meetings and our ancient culture of doing things when we told it all to the public, and I believe he used a public outlet like Facebook or Twitter or something like that to do your public notices.
Or even Scribd.
Okay, or even script. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, and I'll give you my reason why I don't agree. Because I may not have a script account, so I won't see your notice. I may not have Facebook, I won't see your notice. I may not have Twitter, I won't see your notice. So you didn't actually notify me of anything.
But I could always point you to where it is. I can point you to where it is. If I need you to know, then I can say to you, here's the link, and you'll see it posted there. I mean, you may not see the newspaper if I put it in a little box in the back of a local newspaper. Sure. You might be in another state, whatever, and so you don't see it, but it's there. So I don't, there's nowhere I think that you can put it that absolutely everyone will necessarily see it, but you have to put it somewhere where anyone can see it. And you'll be able to reference back. And so I've seen many, I even looked today and saw proclamations and so forth on Scribd. It's public, and they upload it, I guess, for free, and it's there.
What I'm saying is that shouldn't be your primary outlet. Because when you come into a land, speaking of a newborn child, when a newborn child comes into the land, then there's a notice sent out. And typically the notice is sent out to the chief of the land, or in our times, it would be a notice is sent out to the county. Okay. And in some cases it's sent out to the coroner as well to let them know a life has arrived. It's there. So the county is now the chief, hypothetically speaking. So you notify the county because that's the land. Okay. The county is also an example of the town hall. Okay. Because the town will exist within a county. So basically, everyone that is part of a particular geographical location or nation within or state or community, they have public outlets, and the town hall square would be one of them, if that's the custom of that particular nation of people or society. If that's the custom for public notices, then that's what you do. Now, any and all derivatives or secondary outlets are fine, but primary sources, we need to know what our primary sources of giving notice to, and it's particularly if the relationship is presumed to exist between the people and a so-called governing body that was elected by the people. And remember, in a republic, the county officials and the state officials organically were supposed to have been elected by the people. So those people were put in place by the people that make up that society, so to speak. All right. We call those people elected officials. Okay. Yeah, I know exactly. But traditionally, that's the way it's supposed to work. It's been usurped, but traditionally, that's the way it's supposed to work. But the unincorporated business trust, all they do is, or entities, they give notices. So they give notices. They notify the so-called governments that claim to have power over you. You give them notice. You don't register with them. You just give them notice. This is where the common law right to change your name, or the international treaties that allow you to claim a nation or nationality come into place. Okay, you don't have to get permission from that. You were born with that. That's an unalienable right that you have. If you are a people walking the earth, you have a right to a nationality and you have a right to a so-called name. So you give them notice. I'm speaking in contradistinction to the statutory route. You give them notice and you publish it. Noble Drew Ali said declare. Declare is a notice. Publish, proclaim, put it out there in the open. Give them the opportunity to come back and object to you. Give them the opportunity to counterclaim if there's going to be one. But you're not asking for permission. How is a man going to ask an artificial entity to give me permission to do anything?
I have some comments here. So before you get too far, let's I'm just like I highlighted them so we can go one. They seem to all be kind of, so let's just pop them up and let you be started. Okay, this one said, because I guess it was in response to something you said, they don't have lawful title over us, because apparently you might have stated that they did.
No, what I stated was the title was the birth certificate. And whoever said that, memory is correct. Lawful, there's a difference in lawful and legal. They don't have lawful title, but what I'm saying is that if you have a birth certificate, by presumption and assumption, what they call operation of law, that is the title to the name. I'm not saying you're the name. I'm saying just the opposite. I'm saying that is their title, though.
Let's continue. We have legal and lawful title to all of our sovereign state property.
Okay. I think they more or less just said what I just said. But.
And then, which state owns the property? The sovereign Moorish Empire state of Morocco.
Which state owns the property? I'm not really sure.
They're asking the question and then giving the answer.
Oh, okay.
The sovereign Moorish Empire state of Morocco, and then she says, free from ownership by a dead state. Okay.
If you anybody, not just like.
And here's one more. Free and national is issued by a free and national state.
Okay. So if a good exercise for everyone would be to start reaching out to the elected officials of your particular country and or state and start sending affidavits asking questions or making claims. One claim that I have found to be non-existent throughout the Moorish community, or those that claim to be Asiatic and whatnot, is the counterclaim or question of who called you Black and African American and Negro and presumed you was a slave. In other words, has anybody ever considered asking that question? Anybody? Any these national governments? Yeah, I mean the who. We know that they're doing business as, but who? Who? Pull the veil. Who? Don't send the question to your state capital. Send it to John Doe acting as chief executive officer of the state capital.
Right. Gramsci always says that.
Yeah. Who?
Be specific.
Be specific. Who? Remember, there's always people behind these claims. This is an ugly game that they play. You don't have to like it, but you're in it.
Here's a question too, and I think you said yes. That couldn't we just proclaimed through a newspaper.
Yeah, that's a form of publishing it. You could do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I would suggest you do is also reach out to your local government. And when I say local government, I want to explain the connection of the state to the national government. All right. When you proclaim, declare, when you publish, proclaim through the newspaper, etc., I would definitely use your locality's legal news outlet because they recognize. It's a matter of what do they recognize. Okay. They recognize the legal news outlets. All right. Or another way of doing this is to notify the coroner, put the coroner on notice. Coroner is the highest authority in the land. It's the coroner. Okay. The coroner then notify the county register or county recorder. We all know the connection up there. And then notify your Secretary of State. Now you've covered the entire jurisdiction around you as well as internationally. How did you tap into it internationally? The Secretary of State is connected to the United States. Now, in some places, you would say the U.S. Secretary of State is connected to them. But we all know that if you're in the state of New Jersey or the state of Delaware or the state of Texas, we all know that they're an agent of the principal, which is the United States. Anything with the state of. And notice the agent is notice the principal. That's how the connection is made. So what you would do is put on notice the coroner, put on notice the county recorder or county register, and then take that notice and then have it certified, meaning put on notice the Secretary of State, which is a certification. Get it done. Now, it's just like that driver's license that you may have. When you go from one state to another, it's recognized in those other states. Why? Because they have a compact agreement. That's why one ID is good in another. Well, when you take this route and you get your documents authenticated, so to speak, then now your either affidavit of identity or your claim or your proclamation is now recognized on the state level and on the federal level. Now, a lot of people go sending it off to all these other agencies, and that's fine if you want to do that. But what I'm saying is that notice the agents, notice the principal. You can go right to your state and get the same thing done with an affidavit. I'll give you another example of this. A lot of these organizations that claim to be private, how do they do it? Don't they do it by way of affidavit?
I don't know what they.
Whether they call it a religious affidavit or whatever, it's all done by affidavit. In other words, they're not incorporating. They're not going the statutory route. They're not doing that. Okay, they are letting them know. They're putting the government on notice, which is synonymous for public. They're putting the public on notice that they are organizing. Before they did it, people did it. Everything that's done in the artificial construct is to usurp or mimic what's done in private. Why is that? Because everything starts from the substance. Who is the substance? The people.
So it's you know what made me think when you said that, just made me think about in terms of, say, healing plants and stuff. It starts from a natural substance and then it's hijacked and proprietary information is put on. Now it becomes a pharmaceutical product that was actually organic in its beginning. And now in order to be able to capitalize on it, they have to put their spin on it.
Look at what they did, Dr. G. Your creator made people. They created persons. Okay? Gold and silver is substance. They created fiat. No substance. Backed by the full faith and credit of the American people. So they took away the gold and silver, but then they backed it by the substance of the people. Okay? You have de jure law. Okay? Organic. Then you got statutes, acts, and codes. You have property, but then you have interest in property. So basically, you can own something, but then somebody can put a lien against it.
Mhm.
But yet you got the title. But you didn't understand that you have equitable title. You don't have legal title. When you merge the two, then you have what they call allodial or allodium or fee simple.
And how does one do that?
To merge the two,
Yes.
keep it out of the statutory realm.
How did you do that?
Form a private organization or something like that. Just stay private. Remember that
Would that be also the same thing as creating your trust and putting your
if it's a private trust. If it's a non-statutory trust, yeah. Statutory means you're asking for permission. Statutory means you're sharing title. Just look at it like that.
Yeah.
Now, don't take that definitively, but when you all do your research, you'll see that if you're asking for permission and when they give it to you, that you're not in total control. Because just like they gave you permission, they can deny you something as well. All of your IDs have an expiration date. And that's cute because you don't. Not in the sense of all of a sudden that your passport expires, but you're not a Moor anymore. You know, your driver's license expired, then what? But all of these fictitious instruments, they're not you anyway. You know, the requirement for people to get different identifications, it behooves me as to why, as if these identifications are you. They're all fictions. Driver's license is a fiction. It's not you. It's not flesh and blood. Passport's a fiction. It's not you. It's not flesh and blood. It can't speak for you. They're all used to communicate who you are. And none of them have your nationality. They got to get the document, then run it through a computer to figure out who you are. Well, by then it might be too late, especially if you're Asiatic. Or if you're so-called a man or woman that expresses carbon. You still there, Dr. G?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I don't know what's going on with the screen.
It's all right. Got you on solo. You're supposed to know that. Sometimes you got to go solo with this.
Oh, yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Okay. You're feeling lonely. Here I am.
I know you're probably reading through the questions.
There we go. But anyway, so from a standpoint, we are learning and wanting to know. We want to know how to free ourselves from the fiction that we've been written into. How do we get to a place where some folks say, well, just don't participate in what they're doing, but folks are trying to, like you said at the outset, wanting to know how am I going to, how will I live, how will I be able to make it if I
Yeah,
can't do, I can't, I don't have a driver's license or don't have this. So then I don't have an identification that's acceptable. I can't do business or commerce or so forth because everybody's asking for social security numbers and stuff like that. And it seems almost impossible to extricate oneself from the web that we've been, stuck in. We've been caught and snared in the trap, the web, whatever, and getting out. You got folks that that if you could, sometimes unfortunately some of the very ones you think should be helping you out are pulling you back.
without a doubt. There's only one way out. There's only one way out, if you want to say out. And it all starts with you. It started with you to begin with. No matter what you're being told, nobody's going to do it for you. And you don't have the luxury to blame anybody for your shortcomings. Mind you, no one owes anyone anything. I think that needs to be understood. A lot of people that are talking about the way out are people who are not becoming active, meaning people who are not studying. Meaning, if you know you don't know civics, if anything that I said this evening did not resonate with you in regards to who you are within the artificial construct and how do you navigate, which means that the difference between people and persons. Before you sign your next document, you need to learn the difference between people and persons, because that's the problem. If your church, temple, mosque, or others are having you sign documents and you don't know how or what you're doing, which means that you're in the same state of mind you were before you just watched this interview, then you shouldn't be contracted because you don't know how to contract. In my opinion, there's nothing wrong with the licenses. Now, why do I say that? There's nothing wrong with the licenses in themselves if you are benefiting from them in the way that the risk versus the reward is worth it. If you know how to manage your estate, okay, which means the name is part of your estate, then no matter where you go, whoever you call the wealthiest Moor, whoever you call the wealthiest Asiatic, whoever you call the wealthiest man or woman on the planet, they're involved in business. Or whoever you look at as being successful, it could be the Asian people at the corner store or the Indian people that own the gas station, or it could be whoever. These people are in business. So what is it that they know that you don't know? But I can tell you now, because I have several close associates, that they are taught civics before they reach the age of 10. And you have been deliberately kept out of the civic world as a matter of private funding through the public school system. This is why you can be our age and just now questioning how do you get out of it. So when you look at these other people and they're seemingly doing so well, part of the reason is that they know civics, or either they have a organization to go through before they contract. They have a council or consular office. They have a body politic that aids them through contracting. So this is the hand that we were dealt. Since they came over here, speaking of the colonists, they were bringing people over here. And when you do your research in the Unum Sanctum claims, all three, four of them, when they were coming over here, so-called discovered where we were, they brought slaves over here. But now what you don't know is that for just as many as they brought over here, they took our people off the land and took them over there. So they've been trying to get you off the land since they came over here. This is why you look around and you hear brothers like Hayes and Taj Tariq Bey and others talk about the people that look like you, but they don't have your best interest at heart. Because you can barely tell us apart. This is why I say, while people are joining these organizations, give them time to reveal themselves first. Instead of saying they look good and they talk good, give them time, because you don't know them. You don't know the organizational structure. You might be in it and then find out that you don't want to be a part of it, but you didn't sign all kind of documents. I say stop signing documents until you learn civics. The relationship between people and persons. You're operating in trust law. 2 books. If you want to have a good short read, 2 books. I could give you a lot more, but 2 books. Okay? And you may be able to find PDFs online. I'll give you 2 books. This will help wake you up. Select window screen. Okay. Okay. All right. You can see my screen, Dr. G?
Yes.
All right. First book. I think it's, let me see. This book right here. Okay. Meet Your Straw Man. It's a thin book. Costs $5 or $10. You all should get that book. Okay? That book. First book. Second book. Like I said, you might be able to find these in the form of a PDF. Second book. The UCC Connection. For someone who is completely new, this ought to ignite a fire in you and cause you to do further research. Okay? And I'll give you one more. I'll give you 3 books. Give you 3 books. All right? We talk about this in the civics class all the time. Okay? This book here. Those 3 books. Contract Law for Dummies. And I'm not calling anybody a dummy. I have this book. Okay? I can imagine somebody saying I'm a dummy, but anyway, the UCC Connection, all right, and where did it go? I don't know how both of these got up here. Contract Law, the UCC Connection. Let me go back here. Okay, and Meet Your Straw Man. I don't know where it went, but Meet Your Straw Man. Meet Your Straw Man. Start there. Start there. Follow the information on Dr. G's site to get involved with the civics class. And let me see here. Let me close these. And in about 3 weeks, you'll be caught up to speed. We even go over the creation of documents. Okay, we go over with your input how to create your affidavit, and we go over things like a birthright affidavit and whatnot. Typically, affidavits, everything is an affidavit. So I would definitely start there. That'll give people some good insight.
Let me see if there's any. I want to see if there are any more questions or comments that you may want to address. Let's see.
Not very many questions.
Here's a question. Well, here's one. Are you telling Moorish to registered? Wait a minute. Are you telling
Moors to register?
Maybe they mean register a private business
in a fraudulent system.
I guess the question is: are you saying that to register a private business is a fraudulent system? Is a fraudulent system? Is that what you're saying? I guess.
No, I don't. I'm not really understanding what you're saying. But what I'm saying is this: I'm saying. I would not register. It depends on what you're doing in business, but you can just give them notice. Give them notice instead of registering. Give them notice. But if you're doing business within their jurisdiction and whatnot, and it's advantageous for you, then I'm saying ultimately get wealthy. We need more wealthy people, Asiatics. Okay, we need more wealthy Asiatics. We make up less than 1% of the wealth on our own land. So I'm not saying don't contract. I'm saying know how to contract when you're contracting.
Right, because Bruce Davis asked, how do we contract?
By becoming knowledgeable in the relationship between people and persons. That's why I gave you the references with contract law. And that's a good question. I think his name was Davis or Davidson.
Bruce
That's a
Davis.
good question. Yeah, that's a good question to ask because a lot of people think they know and they don't know. Now, once again, I'll repeat, we was not taught civics. So much of our community is learning this information when we already have mounds of debt and et cetera, that you don't even know how to maneuver within the debt world because you don't know contract law, you don't know trust law. In the unum sanctum, as much as Taj Tariq Bey has mentioned that papal bull and et cetera, very few people actually did the research because if you would have done the research, you would have saw in the first few paragraphs, they tell you they're dealing in trust law. Specifically.
Wow. It was, let me see, there's a comment. Someone wanted to know. I'm trying to bring Celestial Good. I saw a question, but I probably just overlooked it. Didn't get
No problem.
Probably. Here we are. Can you touch on how and when we got English surnames? And are the names English?
Really? Okay. English surnames. How about this more specifically? Are you sure they're English surnames?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
How about that? How about this book here? Let me see here. Let me see if I can. Let me bring this up. And this is.
You're muted.
I was sitting here talking to you and you didn't even hear all that?
You're muted.
Wow. Okay, hold on. Now, as far as the English surnames and what you consider to be English surnames, here's a book, okay, that you should read. Okay, I got you. It's called Nature Knows No Color Lines, and I'm going to bring it up here in just a second. Okay. This book here. All right. Okay, you can see my screen, Dr. G?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Get this book here, because we're not going to operate off of presumptions and assumptions, okay? So you need to know exactly what you're talking about. All right. So this book here. And whenever you all come in contact with me, I'm going to always give you substance, okay? So, because we need more people to start reading. This book could. Nature Knows No Color Line. J.A. Rogers. Get that book. They give you a nice historical perspective on what you consider to be English names, etc. Some good history there. Good reading. So,
I have that book.
oh, you have that book?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
There. More importantly, you all remember you're playing the name game. Remember Onum Sanctum. Okay, everything was put in trust. All of your property, all of your real property, personal property, even claimed your soul through baptism. Okay, so what you should be learning, I know it's horrible, what you should be focusing on is trust law, contract law, and you can start with the two books I gave you as far as the UCC connection and Meet Your Straw Man. That's going to open your eyes up to a lot. And then come learn civics. Wherever you learn civics, learn civics. You don't have to come to the North Gate. Go anywhere. Learn civics first. Stop signing contracts. Stop joining institutions that require you to sign contracts and require you to pay dues and all this stuff off the rip, because you're going to have to agree to something. Stop agreeing. Stop contracting, because you don't know what you're doing. But when you find out what you're doing, you'll be glad I suggested that you stop.
Okay, let me see if there's any more questions.
I love giving people book references, Dr. G. That means that's the less talking I have to do.
I get it. I get it.
I tell you what, if you want to look, if you want to weed through people, give them a book to read.
Mm-hmm.
I often ask myself why, in a lot of the religious doctrines and whatnot, do they often speak of just a few people making through whatever the Great War is. Even Noble Drew Ali spoke of a war that he said couldn't be told in words. So, so that should tell you that all of you so-called Moors or Moorish Americans, quote unquote, if you think you're going to be untouchable in this so-called war that is to come, okay, I highly doubt it. Because when it comes to a people that you've been dealing with today that don't operate by honor, they don't operate by good faith and clean hands, they don't operate by love, truth, they don't operate by anything that is honorable. Literally, they even defy nature. I wonder if these people hate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they treat everybody else so bad? To me, you almost gotta hate yourself. But anyway, that war is going to impact everybody, because you better believe if these people have gone so far as to initially come in contact with the foreign people and start taking them off of their land, destroying all of their history, and then creating havoc on their own land, as far as the land that they sojourned on, speaking of the Indo-Aryans from the Eurasian plains that came over here, and the derivative names that they have now, as far as the so-called Romans, Europeans, Irish, whatever. I'm speaking of their scientific designation. I'm not speaking of the fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking of the scientific designation. I'm speaking of what could be quantified, not fictions. Okay? So, with that being said, now look at what they're doing. They're plaguing the people once again. They're willing to crash the economy once again. So if you think for 1 minute that because you claim to be Moorish American and the national government that you're gonna get in the way of that objective, you got another thing coming.
Yeah. Here's a question. She'd like to know where they can access when you pulled up that first document defining the unum sanctum.
Yeah, that was just an internet search. Let me see if I can do it again for you. Okay. Let me see if I can do this again for you.
And while you're looking for that, this question says, how do we rescind contracts ignorantly made with these fraudulent organizations?
You, depending upon what the contract is, you can do a rescission of signature and or challenge the contract in itself. Because if you look over your contract carefully, you'll see that there's only one autograph on the contract, and that's yours.
And don't you need two autographs?
Yeah. There's a couple more things that you need, but the other autograph, because remember the fiction can't sign for itself. So with that being said, you can challenge any contract that doesn't have another wet ink signature, and you can also challenge the language within the contract, being that it's written in legalese and you're not a lawyer, and if they didn't define every word or the origin or reference to where you can get the definition of the word, you can challenge the interpretation of the words within the contract as well. So some people do it through the Truth in Lending Act. Some people do that, but typically, yeah, the Fair Credit, and then typically that Contract Law for Dummies book will give you a lot of inside information on that, and also the UCC Connection book will give you some inside information. Like you also search for the PDFs first, okay?
Some of them I found on Scribd. I did see.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so let's see. Unum. Can you see the screen, Dr. G?
Let me add to the screen.
I think it's this one. Can they see the screen?
Yeah, I see your Foxfire.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so here we go. So here it is right here. It's crazy files. It is okay. I'm going to highlight this unum sanctum, the
All
first
three
trust
of
of
them.
the world. Okay, and then I'm going to come here and I'm going to put this here. That's what I started to type. Okay, here you go right here. It populated first here. Okay, then you can pull that up.
The first trust of the world.
Yeah.
Contract Law for Dummies is also on Scrib. It's 582 pages. And it's up there too. So,
Okay. So sister, there you go right there. It's just search this right here. Unum sanctum, the first trust of the world. This right here. And then you can find other relative information to that as well. So as a matter of fact, maybe I didn't even know I can do this. Can you see that on your end
what's that?
in the chat?
Private chat?
Oh,
We have a private
okay.
chat.
I'm completely.
I
You know
sent
what?
I sent you one earlier, but you ignored it too.
No, I didn't even pay attention to it. I just saw it just now. Okay, so this is yeah. All right. Well, there you go. The it's in the chat, or maybe not the chat.
Yeah, you put it in the private chat.
Okay. I hope she got it.
I'll copy it,
All right.
bring it out to here. There you go. Now it's in the chat.
That'll work. There's not going to be any way out if you don't start people. If people don't start educating themselves. To be honest with you, when you know better, you're supposed to do better. And when you don't arm yourself with the correct information, because knowledge isn't power, that's an illusion in my opinion as well. Knowledge is only half the battle. Knowledge is potential power. Once you have the knowledge, you got to do something with it.
You got to apply it
You got to apply it.
to become
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a presumption that people, when they know something, that they're going to do it. That's a presumption. It's a difference in knowing and doing. So knowledge is half the battle. So when you know how, then you begin to apply it. Then you can move something at that point. But first, you got to give yourself an opportunity to learn and not be hard on yourself because you didn't know. We've all made mistakes, and you have to forgive yourself first. But when you forgive yourself, you're gonna have to change course and do something different. If you don't, you'll continually get the same results. So until you make that decision to change your course and that of your families, then you're gonna get the same results. So make a better decision now that you know better. And there's no promise the road is going to be easy, but you do have help. You do have people to help you. You do have guides. I don't consider myself a teacher. I don't consider myself to be smarter than anyone else, but I do have a unique set of skills that I can use to help guide you in the right direction. But you got to do the work. I can set the table for you, but I can't make you eat. So a guide is how I look at myself. I look at Ty Street Bay as a guide. He doesn't owe anyone anything. Hayes doesn't owe anyone anything. All these people that are presenting you with this information are guides. I'll tell you some more guides that I like. I like Yusuf L. He's a guide. He's an expert in trust. He's a guide. I like the Bad Wolf, James C. Levitt. He's a guide. He's on YouTube. He's a guide. I'm giving you all names for you all to look at these people and take. You don't have to know them personally. You don't know me personally. But if my information relates to you, then take the information and go further with it than I have gone with it. That's the point. Do better than me. I'm the guide. I can assist you in a certain aspect. Take it, better yourself with it. I also like Dane Calloway. He's a guide. You want to know more about who your people are, etc.? Visit Dane Calloway's page. He's a guide. All these people are guides. Don't take for granted the people you have been surrounded with, uh, um, um, the people who are willing to do the research. Respect your researchers. Support your researchers by at least hearing the information and then following up, doing your due diligence to qualify or quantify the information. It's information. You don't have to like me, but does my information stand? Does it relate to you? Am I telling you the truth? Am I attempting to deceive you? I could care less if you like me or not. I don't know you either. I mean, that's irrelevant. But does my information relate to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And and you all should, I see people in the chat trying to encourage you to get the likes up, but you really, I'm gonna tell you, like I hear the other brothers saying, when it changes the algorithms. When you like something, then more people get to see it. And don't be stingy with your likes. You come into the table, you're eating, you didn't throw up, so you must like it, right? What's something in here you like? So why don't you press the like and and give credit where credit is due. You don't have to like everything, but you've heard something that you like because you've been on here for a while. Even if it's no more than this platform gives you an opportunity to show what you know in the chat. Some of y'all do that. You know what I mean? So like
That's
it.
it.
Turnabout is fair play. Give us some likes. Give some likes. Give some likes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're getting
And
good information. You're getting solid information.
and another thing, disclosure. Um, no one is entitled. No one is entitled. Okay. I'm speaking of your researchers. A lot of us do this out of love for the community. Now, I'm going to speak specifically of myself. Unlike many of my fellow researchers, I'm neutral when it comes to people. Okay. In this sense, I love people. I don't trust people. That has no color. There's no color line there. It doesn't matter to me. I am opposed to any form of slavery, period. We all live in a melting pot. We have all different cultures, all different civilizations of people within our communities. And what I mean by civilizations of people is that a lot of times our civilized manner of being is dictated by our families' access to resources. Meaning that if you grew up in a place that was scarce with resources such as food, you may have had to resort to a harsher um, course of action to survive versus someone who grew up in a place where food was abundant. So you live in a community where you have a diverse set of people from different cultures, different experiences, and different civilizations. So we have to be patient with one another. I don't presume or assume that because someone doesn't look like me, that they may be what some people call hybrid European, or who I refer to as Indo-Aryans from the Eurasian plains. I don't look at them any different. Actually, I actually respect them for who they are, because I'm going to tell you something that they have done for us Asiatics that we Asiatics couldn't do for ourselves up to this point. Those people that you refer to as white or Aryan or them mofos or they here on our land, all that stuff. Let me tell y'all something about them people. Some of them, not all of them. First of all, many of them are completely unaware as what the heck is going on. That's the first thing. Second thing is they'll die before they let you take something from them. They're going to defend their land or what they think is their land. They're going to defend their property. They're going to grab their shotgun and they're going to do whatever they got to do. I'm talking about these so-called white people. These so-called white people are part of the reason you still own the damn land.
How so?
How so? Because not all of them accept unum sanctum. Not all of them look at us like we don't belong here. Many of them share the same love that we do. But we, as Asiatics, mistakenly, because we feel entitled or owed or wronged, refer to them, we group them all together and hate when they do it to us, as if they are all bad. There are no all bad people. But look at that community and ask yourself, why is it that when it comes to shooting people in the street, that it only happens to us, seemingly? Or the scales is offset towards us. It doesn't happen to the so-called white people like that. It doesn't happen to the so-called Indian people like that. It doesn't happen to the so-called Arab people like that. It doesn't happen to the so-called Chinese people like that. Only us. But those people will arm themselves, and if you come on their property trying to take something from them, you're going to have a war on your hand. Our people, you know what we do? When we see one of our people getting done wrong, and I'm not saying all of us. I'm not saying all of us. I'm saying the majority of us. We run to get our cell phone. I know a lot of people ain't gonna like it. It's all right. But that's what we do. We sit back and we watch, some of us. Let something happen to one of their people out there like that and see what happens. At least they have some sort of cohesiveness. We don't exercise that on a whole. When's the last time, Dr. G, you seen something happen, people band together as a unit while whatever was going on, instead of afterwards burning down the whole community? After the fact. Now, I call that slavery at its best. So I only said that to say this: stop pointing fingers and stop talking about people. When you one of the people that'll pull out your cell phone before you go over there and try to help somebody. I have all cultures in my family. And some of the people that the Asiatic community refer to as being them, or these white people, or these Europeans, or etc. I even have friends that'll stand by my side right now, as well as Asiatics, and they are not Asiatic. So I don't falsely and presumptively apply that logic to all people. I don't care what color they are. It doesn't matter. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. Your greatest enemy, second to yourself, is the people that look like you.
Oh, yeah.
Who are the people mostly taking advantage of you that you know of? Now, it's one thing if you don't know.
Right.
You don't know. You don't know civics. I give you that. But who are the people right in front of you taking advantage of you? Who are the people lying to you?
Well, they look like us. You're right. They look like us, but they're not us. And you're right. Sometimes they are the worst of the enemies, as you said, second to ourselves.
Second to ourselves. It's all on your shoulders, period. It's on your shoulders. Everything is on your shoulders. But the job gets easier. It doesn't mean that it's all bad. It just means that you're not aware of how bad it was. You need to wake up and activate and
Absolutely.
bond together. Go ahead, Dr. G. I apologize.
No, that's all right. They need to meditate, get to clear your own head, So we are at the 2-hour mark, and both
Yes,
of us
we
talked
are.
about how we were going to see if we can last for these 2 hours, because
Oh, man.
we both a little beat. Um,
Yes.
so, but you know what? You come back. I'm sure. Those of you, I'm running the banner under right now. You see how to reach out to Brother Yacouba. You see his not only his email address, but they now have he has a website that you can go on.
And
Very
it's
easy.
pretty basic. I designed it myself, so I don't even trust the website builders, y'all. Be waking up and I'll be sending emails to myself.
Yeah. Look, the www the northgate.xyz. What he
XYZ.
XYZ. Check him out and sign up, email him if you're interested. You still have openings in the civics class?
Yeah, and I'm going to start narrowing it down for 3 weeks. Three, well, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7:30 to 9:30 Eastern, and then there's a question and answers on Saturdays from 11:30 to 12:30 Eastern. I want to start running it preliminarily for 3 weeks straight and take 3 weeks off. That gives 15 hours of civic studies, and I believe I can wake people up within 15 hours, as well as including some affidavit creation to the point to where when you look at a contract or presentment or any sort of document that you may consider a contract, you'll be able to look at it and determine what the claims are and know how to create a counterclaim or an affidavit. That is the point of the class, and knowing who you are and your relation to persons, because you don't know, you're not a person, and you don't know how to navigate the world of artificial constructs, to navigate the trust world in that capacity. At least you will understand the civics aspect of it, and you can take it further and learn the trust details, the economic details, the whatever commercial instruments details. You go further, but you first need to learn trust. That's what Noble Drew Ali was talking about as far as names, as far as civics, because that's what they are, names of trust. They'll learn that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So listen, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I do want to pop in with a little promo commercial. Y'all see me running my banner about silver, about acquiring silver with Dr. G at www.getpaidmore.com. But what the company has just introduced is not this size. This is a whole ounce, but you can now get fractional silver and come into this, start getting silver for as little as under $20 a month. Now that's amazing. So check out getpaidmore.com and if you don't want to be a distributor, you don't have to be a wealth ambassador. Just get your silver, even if you have to do it in fractional pieces, though, because sometimes folks say, well, I can't spend $32 an ounce or whatever, so spend $6.97. You could get your business started with $6.97 and get a fractional silver coin every month until you start to build it up. So check that out. And of course, get some chokeberry, which is the way I like to end all of mine.
That is some good juice. That's some good juice. I'm about I probably got maybe less than half left.
Yeah.
It's some good berry. Definitely good on inflammation. Inflammation is an anti-inflammatory. I know that's one very, very powerful property of it.
Right, anti-inflammatory, antiviral, a whole bunch of other stuff I say in my little promo. But I was playing Lizzo's song when I made some juice. Cause ain't my fault that I'm out here getting loose. Blame it on the juice. Gotta blame it on the juice. Yeah, folks were like, "You look like you get younger." Blame it on the juice and blame it on my biocrystal mattresses that I sleep products that I sleep on. So all that stuff and Dr. Botanica, yeah, and him too. All the stuff that so. Yes, thank you so very much. Thank all of y'all for tuning in, and sharing and liking. If you haven't liked, at least one like before you get off of here, please give us a like. please. We appreciate it. I'm not begging y'all. Y'all know what you ought to be doing. I shouldn't even have to do that. I feel like I'm being stupid. I'm not going to beg y'all, but it would be great if you did. It would be great if you did. I like spending time. Who's somebody else? Chokeberry is working for you, Queen. You look great. Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, man. Not bad for an old girl. Appreciate y'all. I absolutely agree. When I get ready to go out here with this thing, it's like rubbing your head and patting your belly. I was like, you gotta click that, put up the video, put up the this, start to that, and all that. Because I'm gonna have to automate this thing. Somebody out there knows how to do this stuff. Please contact me and teach me how to do this better. I need to put together promo videos that'll just play. Because I absolutely don't know what the heck
It's
I'm
a
doing.
whole different world dealing with
Oh,
this.
you know what, brother Yacouba, this is my 2-year anniversary month. I started somewhere in the month of May of 2020. So here it is, 2022. This is May 6th. So somewhere during this month, all this month, this is look like when we have a born day. I'm celebrating all month with great shows. I got some stuff coming up. I'm sure you'll love it. I'm trying to bring them some more. Look, yes. So Roxy, glad to hear you got your chokeberry. Yes, yes. So yeah, I'm gonna go because now I'm starting to ramble. That means I'm tired. I am absolutely tired and can't wait to get into my BioCrystal mattresses, sleep ammo. I'm shamelessly promoting this, but it's what has been helping me. You know what I mean? So I like, well, what are you doing? I'm glad you asked. I'm sleeping on this. I'm drinking that. I'm thinking this way. So that's what I'm doing. So appreciate you.
I'm gonna do is the next property I get. It's gonna have a sunroom. Sunroom, yeah, that's the room with all the windows, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, sunroom. I'm going to make sure I have a. I think it's therapeutic, even on the rainy days. A sunroom.
Yeah. So yeah, that would help. That would help because they really trying to kill us, y'all. They trying to kill us emotionally, physically, every way they can. They try to just like beat us up, tear us down. So look, whatever you can do to bring some sunshine into your life, meditate, take a nap in the middle of the day if you can. Maybe you can't because you're still out there grinding, but I don't work for anybody but me. And so I'm learning how to take a siesta. So that I didn't get one today. Yeah, didn't get one today. But I like to thank you. Thank you. We going out of here.
Thank you. Okay.
You. All right. Thanks a lot. Thank you so very much.
Dr. G, inviting you to get your Chokeberry Plus today. It is that amazing berry, high in antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antiviral properties. It supports and balances the blood pressure, the blood sugar, weight, and cholesterol. Yes, you can get a 2-month supply today by texting CB3L to 302-345-0500. That's CB3L to 302-345-0500. And get on the path to wellness today. You'll be glad you did.
Deeper and deeper I go. I find what it is I should know. It's just a matter of time. Jewelry awake in your mind. Oh, come with me, come to know and find out what is true. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. You're living a life I can look to the sky and say, I'm running away awakening mind. Come to know and find out what is truth is. Then you know what's in store just for you. No more living the lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening mine.